Hello lovelies, welcome back to another episode of Wedding Wednesday Q&A where we answer your wedding questions. Today's question is from Shannon and she writes, how to handle wedding planning stress? Thank you so much for your question, Shannon. With so many things to think about, it is only natural that you will get some level of stress. You might even feel pressured about anything related to your wedding. From booking, to shopping, to dealing with personal relationships, in-laws, new friendships, old friendships. I can go on and on and on. Even figuring out all the little details. Those can add up and eventually cause some level of stress. No matter how much you organize the wedding planning journey, it can still take a toll on you, especially if you're also working full-time. In this two-part episode, we are sharing 11 tips on how to help you handle your wedding planning stress so that you, your partner, your family, and your friends can enjoy this fantastic time in your life. First on the list is to find ways to take care of yourself. Taking care of yourself should be your first preference. Take a deep breath, keep all the matters aside. This is all easy to say, but pretty hard to do, ain't it? Your wedding is a significant investment, not just of money, but of effort, time, relationships, again, all the other things surrounding it. And of course, you want it to be beautiful. With a to-do sheet always filled up, we forget to take care of ourselves. As you fill up your to-do list, schedule taking care of yourself into it. Whether it be a 30-minute break or going to the spa, getting your nails done, getting your lashes done, however taking care of yourself looks like for you, and however that works for you, that's something that you should also include in your schedule or your to-do list. Set your alarm and give yourself and your partner the number of maximum hours you work on your wedding planning per day. You can also schedule no wedding planning days to give yourself a real day break. It doesn't even have to be going out or again, all those things that I mentioned earlier. And this doesn't even have to be fancy. It doesn't need to be nails done, hair done, everything did. It doesn't have to be anything major like that, but a break that can just let you enjoy your time without thinking about the wedding. You can enjoy your time watching TV, with your favorite mug of coffee or whatever drink you prefer. You know what I'm talking about. Just to relax your mind and your body. Second is to be friendly to your budget. Of course, sometimes money gets in the way and we might want more things than what the budget allows us to do, which happens for the most part, but be friendly to your budget. I know that sounds a little weird, but set your non-negotiables accordingly and stick to them. This way, you can be more flexible and almost open to other options for the rest of the wedding. Keep 10 to 15% of your wedding budget aside for assorted reasons. When you have this padding set in your budget, again, being friendly to it and not capping it and not being so strict to it, just being gentle and compassionate with it. When you add that little padding, however that looks like for you again, maybe 10 to 15%, it just gives that peace of mind that regardless of whatever comes up, there is something in there. Knowing where the money is going and what is paid for helps you manage your stress. If someone calls you and say, hey, we don't have this X available, but we have this X available, and it might be a little bit more expensive than the one you initially preferred. Because you do have that 10 to 15% padding, you will most likely take that substitution a little bit lighter than if you don't have that 10 to 15% because you know that sure, it's extra cost, but I do have a padding for that. I do plan for that somehow. And if you don't use that 10 to 15%, you have extra money in your pocket at the end of the wedding. Isn't this a win-win? Third on this list is to prioritize and organize. As we mentioned earlier, when you discuss your non-negotiables early on in the wedding planning, it just makes it easier for you to know where your commitment lies. Sit down with your partner and figure out what is the best approach when it comes to making hard decisions. We even made a sheet for you that can help you figure out the pros and cons and how to make that hard decision. If you love 3 photographers, but you only have one, obviously, unless you want all 3 of them, but you can only have one, how do you choose which one? Having a plan in place on making decisions and the criteria will help set a guideline to move forward with less stress and overwhelm. You won't go back and forth or, well, maybe this or maybe that, maybe this is better, maybe that is better. When you have a set of criteria or questions prepared before that moment, it's easier for you to just reference back and say, you know what, we already know what to do if the situation comes up. If we have an argument, if we're a little confused on who to choose, we do have a guideline that we can look back and say, here are the things. Let's go over it together because we built this guideline together. So let's go over this and let's make that decision together. Again, when you have this prioritization and organization, on top of that, add a little bit of teamwork or maybe a lot of teamwork. It just makes it easier for you and your partner to make that decision and move forward your wedding planning without that much stress. 4th on the list is to hire a wedding planner and work with the professionals. On the onset, when you feel like a teeny tiny feeling of overwhelm, not when you're so overwhelmed, when you feel like, oh, this is getting a little too much for me, right then and there, speak to a wedding planner. Once you disregard that feeling of overwhelm, when it's like a little whisper in your ear telling you, hey, this is getting too much. You like my whispering? Hey, you gotta think about it. This is getting too much. There's a lot on your plate. You really like my whispering, or like, is it creepy? Anyways, when you have that feeling, when you have that whispers in your ear, you're gonna have to listen to it and give yourself a chance to ask for help and accept it. You can start with a consultation if you don't feel like hiring a full wedding planner. Just having a professional sounding board just to keep you back in check and put things in perspective, especially the things that you're overwhelmed about, just helps you relieve that stress and gets you back on track better on moving forward with your wedding planning. The thing about overwhelm as well is that you might not be overwhelmed with the whole wedding planning, but there are probably aspects of it where you're really having trouble, and that's really drilling you down, taking a toll on you, and like always running in your head all the time. Probably lost a lot of weight already, kept running in your head, in and out, in and out. So having someone to talk about what bothers you the most, especially in wedding planning, speaking to a professional will help you come up and develop ideas or approach that you might not have thought of on your own. If you start speaking to them in terms of consultation, they help you navigate the complicated parts of wedding planning, and they break it down so that you can digest it easier. This is not to say that they're going to take away everything for you, but what they do is that they present it in a manner where it is a little bit digestible for you. So you don't be just like, oh my God, too much. Again, that whispers, oh my God, this is too much. I don't know what to do. When there's a professional, they'll be just like, yeah, it does sound too much, but we can come up with a plan for you so that you can tackle them in a digestible, manageable, stress-free way. 5th on the list is do not compare your wedding. Okay, first of all, this is super easy to say, but I mean, even for me, I feel like I'm looking great in an outfit, and then I go on social media and I'm just like, okay, well, I guess my outfit's not that good after all. And it is but normal that happens, but I think what we have to remember is a wedding is a celebration. It's not a contest. Even with ourselves, even with me, when I feel like I'm comparing myself to other people, I'm robbing myself of the experience of celebrating my own self because I'm looking at how other people are doing it. I mean, this is not to say not to look at other people's wedding, because they're definitely beautiful weddings, and for the most part, you get your inspiration from other people's wedding. So it does happen, and we look to them as inspiration instead of comparison. This is where that demarcation line is. If you look at them as inspiration, that's great. But if we look at them as comparison, that really affects us and raises all these triggers and levels of stress that we don't need. Sometimes we scroll on social media, see someone's wedding, and now we also somewhat want something like that. But for whatever reason, we know that it's not going to work for us. But then we still wish that we can do it the way they did it. But then it really won't work for us. So again, we're trapping ourselves in this vicious cycle of comparing. It's a phase, we all go through it, but we have to realize when we're getting on that cycle of comparison and really get ourselves out of it. I'm not sure where I heard this from, and if you remember where I heard this from or where I read this from, probably from a book or a podcast, please comment below and let us know. But the best way to avoid comparison is to give compliments. So instead of forcing yourself, like don't compare, no, don't look at it, no, that's fine, that's great for them, compliment it. Let that emotion come out through compliment. Get it out of your system. Say, oh my God, that is amazing. You can even be honest and be just like, I'd love to have that at my wedding, but I also know that that's not how my wedding celebration is going to work. But I do love that they've had a chance to do it the way they want to do, because I now, at this point in time, will also have a chance to celebrate my wedding the way I want to celebrate it. You can say, that wedding is beautiful, and my wedding will be beautiful too. I will plan a wedding that is best for me, my partner, and our circumstance, because that is what really matters. This will take a lot of practice. I mean, if you're like me, you're probably going to have a lot of stickies that are up in your monitor and your phone or pop up or anything like that. But just little things to remind you that when you get into the zone of comparison and when you're like really digging deep down into the rabbit hole of looking at other people's weddings and that comparison jungle, and there are a lot of lions, bears, and tigers coming at you, go back to your safe space, have stickies all over to remind you that, again, if their wedding is beautiful in your eyes, imagine how beautiful your wedding can be for you. Because it's your celebration, it's your wedding, it's you and your partner and your circumstance. That is what matters. Sixth on the list, and also last for this episode, communicate. Everyone in the family and your circle of friends is excited about your wedding. So excited, they might weigh in with their own opinions and insights. And as you know, as exciting as it sounds, it does also make you feel overwhelmed. Hey, I know this thing. Maybe you should try them. Hey, I heard that you were gonna do this. Oh, maybe don't do that. Oh, how about this? I know about this. We have gone through all this noises around us. Not to say that they're not good advice, because some of them probably hold value. Some of them have been there. But again, going back earlier, you know your circumstance the best. Even if other people seem like it's very similar to theirs, there's still a lot of nuances that will make your wedding only specific to you, your family dynamics, again, your circumstance. You love these people and they love you back. That's why they want to be part of your wedding and they want to share their insights. You love them and you want them to feel heard without losing yourself. But the reality is, you already have a lot on your plate. Even if you don't plan on hiring a wedding planner, you can still use this line, because this is my generic advice that I share with most of the brides that I work with and most of the newlyweds-to-be that I work with. You can respond and say, thank you, that's a great idea. I'll definitely run it by my wedding planner and see if that's something we can consider and incorporate. What this line does, is that you've acknowledged what they're sharing. But now they also know that it's not just something that you can easily incorporate and consider, but you will definitely try. Don't throw promises or don't go over defensive. That's where things get mucky. So don't throw things that are very defensive. Stay calm. Again, this is very easy to say, but when you're in that situation and you know that uncle, that auntie heading towards you, you see them and you're like, oh my God, they're gonna say something. I know it. They have an opinion and it's coming my way. Again, those whispers. I'm not sure if you like my whispers in this podcast, but I mean, I like it. It just adds character. But these whispers really happen. And It might sound funny, and I know you guys are probably laughing, but this happens. You know it. Like when I see someone from afar and I know that they're walking towards me, it's like I almost always know what they're gonna open with. Like, hey, do you remember? I feel like you should, or maybe what if, or what do you think you should do with this? And I'm just like, oh man, here we go again. But when you have a script in your head, right? Like imagine if you go to an interview. You don't go on an interview empty-handed. You have prepared some serious answers somehow. Tell me something about yourself. And this is very common too when you are dealing with a big family, like a larger family dynamic, and where a lot of people would want to weigh in and would want to be considered and, have wishes for your wedding. Having a templated response, having some type of calm and inviting, yet not losing yourself type of response is helpful because it easily diffuses the situation. Like, I am telling you, I will consider what you're saying, but I am not the only one in this wedding. I will ask my wedding planner, but thank you. I like that idea. That makes things so much easier because then you're kind of off the hook too, because it's not now just all about you. So there you are, lovelies. That is it for now. This is a 2-part episode, and this is part 1 of how to handle wedding planning stress. Stay tuned for part 2 next week. Don't forget to download your free wedding planning kit below. And as usual, we are here to inspire you to celebrate life and love. Until next time, lovelies. Bye.